to another edition of the Moore Report, where we put the spotlight on your local sports happenings. Today we have an interesting show, one of my favorite topics, I'm sure, which will be for a long time when we talk about the field of basketball. On the show today, we have two special guests. We have Mr. Sean Avent and also Mr. Phil Santaveneer. We will be discussing our local and non-local freshman basketball players right here in the state of Connecticut. The way the format is going to be set up today, it's going to be like an NCAA tournament, fast forwarded up to the Elite Eight. So each guy will be talking about 4 of their best or their favorite local freshmen. And they'll be paired up and see who's going to advance to the Final Four, then on to the championship round, and at the end we'll be crowning the best freshman on our show in the state of Connecticut. Now, we'll start with you, Mr. Chewy, Mr. Sean Avent. The first freshman that you'll be discussing will be Mr. Keandre Fair.
Sure.
Now, at this moment, you'll have 1 minute to tell us why he is the best freshman in the state of Connecticut.
Keandre Fair, hands down, is the best freshman because of his basketball IQ. He's very knowledgeable on the court and also makes his teammates better. He can pass the ball as the 1, he can also play the 2, and he can also play the 3. His jump shot is very, very lethal at this point right now. He's definitely shooting a very high percentage from the 3-point line. However, he's moved over to the 1 where he's been able to be a playmaker to help boost his team as well too to victories when their other one is not in the game. The reason why I like Keandre Fair is because of his attitude. He's very coachable. He's also like a sponge, and he definitely has a knowledge for the game. As a freshman, haven't seen a freshman this quite good in Weaver history since Michael Williams.
Wow, that's a high praise for a young man who's just entering high school basketball as a freshman. And this is one of the reasons why this is such a great debate, because we're talking about those kids being able to see them, watch them now as freshmen, and then obviously being able to watch that potential develop into the, as they finalize the class of 2016. Now, Mr. Phil,
yes.
The guy who we put up against Mr. Keandre Fair, he's a guard, and he's in a tough school. We used to play. We actually scrimmaged at school when I was in high school, and they always had a great program, St. Joseph Trumbull, and that'll be Mr. Richard Kelly. Can you tell us a little bit more about him?
Well, Richard Kelly comes from good pedigree. His father was a Division I player. He's a kid that's extremely fundamental, high IQ. He's in a position at that school where he has to play he'll play JV and come off the bench on varsity with limited minutes. He can shoot the ball well, extremely fundamental, not super athletic, got a little flash to his game, and he's a kid that, as the years progress, I think you'll see how he'll excel as a player. I think the athleticism will come more in the future, but solid all-around player, can play the 1 or the 2, more of a point guard with a good jump shot.
Right. Wow. And like I said, and guards usually dominate the conversation when we talk about the state of Connecticut. We do have some good big men that's out there, but for the majority of the time, we usually dealing with smaller guards, and they usually dominate this category. Moving on to our second matchup. Phil, we'll start with you on this one. And we talk about another guard that you brought to our attention from Notre Dame Fairfield, Mr. Jesse McIntosh. Can you tell us more about him?
Yeah, Jesse's about 5'10", good athlete, can play the point. Is more of a point guard with the jump shot. He's quicker than what Richie is. Has a good IQ, but another kid. He's getting limited varsity minutes right now. Sometimes he'll get good quantity minutes. He'll put up decent numbers. Other times, his minutes are limited. Coach doesn't play him on the JV squad. But another kid who has a bright future, who will grow into his body and become, I'm sure, more athletic down the road.
Definitely, and again, we talk about these kids. I mean, I love to see young talent develop. So a lot of these kids that we're going to be talking about, they're good now. You guys probably saw them in the past, maybe 7th and 8th grade growing up. But a lot of it's going to depend on how these kids will be developed in the next couple of years. And like I said, we're looking forward to seeing them down the road. Now, matched up with him, Mr. Avent, Mr. Derek Ellis.
Derek Ellis is over at Capital Prep High School. He's very, very explosive, very quick, can finish with both hands at the rim. He's also a good defender. Definitely needs some improvement on his jump shot, so that's something that he can improve on. But as a freshman, he definitely is a playmaker and contributes, to the success coming off the bench. Gets limited varsity minutes, but he does play. But it definitely is a star of the show on the JV team. I definitely, he definitely has a what we could say is his AAU success is definitely good because he can play up tempo, press, but he definitely needs some development when it comes to running the plays and things like that. But his natural ability to be explosive and finish at the rim is definitely outstanding.
Thanks a lot for that, because I'm kind of interested in Capital Prep. They made it to the championship last year in Class S. Now, do you think he'll be able to help them get to that point again this year?
Well, I definitely do, because maturity, with the other two guards that they have, is definitely something that's big. So I think that he kind of fits into that system. But they're definitely going to look to him in order to make a tournament run to the championship. They're definitely going to have to use some of the freshmen that they have.
Right, definitely. We'll move on to the next matchup. Again, like I said, I'm just excited talking about it because I love basketball. I love to hear about this talent, especially some of the talent out of the greater Hartford area that I'm getting, to become more familiar about. Now, Mr. Avent, we'll start with you for that third matchup. This is another kid from your area, your neck of the woods, Mr. Will James. Can you give us a little bit more about him?
Will James is definitely very athletic. About 6'3", forward. He can put the ball on the floor. He has a soft touch around the rim, but he's very athletic on the rebounds. He can run the floor. He's not necessarily a guard, but at 6'3", I think that he can probably be a slasher.
Right.
As it comes along.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't dress varsity, but he definitely is the man on JV.
Okay.
He definitely contributes to the success of the JV team. I think that his basketball IQ might keep him from playing varsity minutes.
Okay.
Just pure talent-wise, he could play varsity, but as a playmaker or as a player, he just has to learn a few things. But I think that overall, his talent level, blocking shots, running the floor, being a defender, is definitely right amongst the top freshmen.
Okay, so you think once the idea of him actually learning a little bit more about the game IQ-wise catches up to his skill level, he'll be a productive player down the road.
Because he's dunking right now.
Right.
If you give him the opportunity, I just think that with more understanding the plays, pick and roll, understanding when to go to the basket, shoot a jumper. I think that comes along with just being a little more mature and understanding the game.
Right. All right. Now this guy, we talk about, we move from guards to kind of the forward position / center. This guy seems to be pretty versatile, Phil, that you brought to my attention. And I hope I don't butcher his name. It's he's from Hopkins High School, Mr. Edens Florizard.
Yeah, I think you got it.
All right.
Now Eden is an intriguing player. He's a great student athlete. He's about 6'6", extremely athletic. He was coming off an injury during the fall ball time, so he didn't play with us at that time. He just came to the games. Showed a lot of potential to finish around the basket. He's a beast on the boards. Obviously in Connecticut, 6'5", 6'6" for a freshman is good size. But he also has to learn to play away from the basket.
Right.
He kind of reminds me of Rohan Brown a little bit, but probably a little more girth to him than Rohan had. So he's a kid that we're really excited about. That we think because he has the package to be a collegiate athlete.
Right.
So he's good and he's solid. Still a lot to learn, but for his size, I think that he'll do well for himself. And he plays varsity starts.
Right. And obviously, one of the things that you point out about this young man, which is very important, and one of the things I'm sure because we all are involved with the youth, is making sure we stress to our kids the importance of that educational component. And when it comes to myself, when I like to look at it, when we talk about players, that's part of when we describe who's a good player.
Yes.
That full package, as you mentioned.
The grades.
Yeah.
It
it holds a lot of people back, but you talk about the academics, the athletics, but as well as they handle themselves as a human being out in the community as well. So all of that,
character is definitely.
definitely. And then our last matchup of this Elite 8 round. Mashawn, I'll let you start. It's a young man that I know personally, and you decided to put him down as one of these top freshmen. He has played some basketball in Hartford, but right now he actually plays at East Catholic. Mr. Deron Huey.
Deron Huey might be one of the purest shooters that we have amongst the list on the freshmen. His shot is very natural, whether he's coming off the screen or he's coming down with the set shot. I definitely believe he's one of the purest shooters that we have as a freshman. He can handle the ball, probably not as good as the other freshmen, but as far as a pure shooter, most definitely. He's trying to make the adjustment to become a one. You know, I can see that because the school that he goes to, you know, trying to play the two guard at the varsity level is very difficult. You know, if you're not 6'3", 6'4".
Right.
You know,
right.
But as far as pure shooter and talent goes, has a good IQ for the game. I definitely think he needs to develop in regards to going to the basket. Can finish with the left hand and right hand, but I just thought that he was one of the top freshmen because of his jump shot and his ability to put the ball in the basket for the perimeter.
Definitely. And matched up with him, and you know, Phil, I heard this guy was pretty good, you know, as a freshman. The kid Matt Turner from Trumbull High School.
Yeah, Matt Turner's Matt's about 6'2". He's got a long wingspan. He can play the point. He can play the two guard. He starts varsity. He's been a little frustrated this year because he has the ability to score from anywhere on the court. He's got a mid-range jump shot, the three ball. He can take it to the rack. But his coach has put some demands on him where he wants him to defer to the upperclassmen and be more of a facilitator of the ball.
Okay.
And at times he's second-guessing himself and can get a little frustrated. But that's part of growth and maturity. And he definitely has a pretty good feel for the game, good IQ. Great kid, like, you know, good family structure, real promising future with him.
Wow.
You know, and so I just think, like anything, no matter how good you can be potentially or how good you are, you can get better, and he's still got a lot of room for growth, which he's an exciting player for, you know, for Connecticut basketball.
Right, and as you know, as we talk about go ahead, Ashawn.
I agree. I heard a lot of good things about this Matt Turner guy, and I heard he's making the adjustment, you know, to play the one and be a playmaker for his team. So, you know, I definitely agree with you on that, Phil. Yeah, this guy's really.
You know, and obviously, as you talk about the growth, that's probably one of the most important things we can talk about with these kids because they're all freshmen. You know, and that's a good thing if they get into the hands of the right people. You know, just helping them develop, like we talk about personally, as well as anything else. Obviously, they move towards, you know, graduation on to their futures on a collegiate level. We had a great first round of matchups here on the Moore Report. We'll look forward to when you guys join us again with the Final Four.
Right now, the NCAA is building over 400,000 future professionals. And most of us will go pro in something other than sports.
We return to you here on the Moore Report. With today's edition, we're talking about freshman basketball players right here in the state of Connecticut. Some local, some in the greater Hartford area, some from downstate, all parts of the state. We just had an interesting conversation. Like I said, it started off like an NCAA tournament matchup. Fast forwarded to the Elite 8 when we were talking about kind of our 8 best freshmen here. And now we move on to the Final Four. So as we move on, I just wanted to let you guys know, you know, and it was tough, you know, after hearing all of the, you know, your debate between the guys. But the Final Four that I concluded with was out of the first round matchup will be Keandre Fair. Out of the other matchup will be Edens Fleurizard. I apologize if I, you know, ruined his name. I'm very sorry about that. Also advancing to the Final Four would be Derek Ellis. And then also he'll be matched up against, and again, I'm looking forward to getting a chance to watch this kid, the kid Matt Turner. Now, listen, we had a minute. We're going to move back into that minute format with this next round. We're going to start with Phil. We'll talk about Edens, but so hopefully you got more information to give us about this young man. Obviously, it doesn't matter if you know, just some personal stuff or stuff that you've seen in the past, or even repeating some of the stuff you said in the first segment.
Okay. Well, Eden plays two sports. He plays football and he plays basketball. So that's probably where he gets the strength, and it helps with his athleticism. But like I said, as a basketball player, great attitude, works hard on the court, will play intense defense, get rebounds and putbacks. Would love to see him be able to extend his game away from the basket and put the ball on the floor.
Right.
I think it's important for guys that height, because you never know how tall you're going to get.
Right.
I think with his great attitude and work ethic, and believe me, it's a big compliment if you compare him to like a Rohan Brown, because
definitely.
Rohan is a workhorse.
Definitely,
and, You know, so that's pretty much it in a nutshell.
Okay, all right. Now he's matched up against Ashawn. He's matched up against Keandre Fair. What more do you have to say about this young man?
Well, Keandre, he's an honor roll student. You know, at Weaver High School. Keandre actually grew 5 inches. He was short, so he's about 6 feet now. And he was short. He was about 5'5", 6", and he grew. But not only did he grow, he turned himself into a defender as well. He wasn't extremely athletic before, but working with the Supreme Athletes, you know, also working out, you know, in other more sports clinics, you know, this guy developed himself into a really good defender as well too, where he's checking some of the tougher guards as well too, but he's also averaging a significant amount of points per game as a freshman, just now starting varsity, which is a little bit different from the other freshmen. So he's basically shouldering the load for a lot of scoring, you know, for his high school, which already have exceeded the amount of wins that they had last year already, due to the contributions of, you know, Keandre. So last year we had 4 wins, so they were 4-16 last year. Now they're 4-6 now. There's no coincidence there that Keandre's definitely helped uplifting the team, known for scoring his defensive ability.
Definitely. Wow. I mean, like I said, just hearing about these guys, I can't wait to get a chance to see these guys playing. You know, I look forward to going to high school games and just watching these guys compete. We'll move on to the other side of the bracket of the Final Four, and we'll start with you, Ashawn, when we talk about Derek Ellis. Can you tell us some more about him?
Well, Derek also is a lightning quick defender as well too, due to his ability to play AAU at a high tempo, high fast pace. You know, definitely has turned him into a very quick defender. The only thing I like about Derek though on defense is that with most kids, he's disciplined. He moves his feet and he doesn't reach. He plays the passing lane for his steals. As opposed to some of the other kids or other guards who like to reach a lot, put themselves in foul trouble. He's really a solid defender, you know, the kid Derek Ellis, because he's light and quick as well too. So that's one thing that I do like about him, being a defender. You know, transferring the AAU game to a high school game. You know, definitely being a team defensive player, weak side help.
Right, and as we talk about defense, I mean, I you know, me playing college ball, I played with one of the shortest guys probably that ever played. When you talk about a guy probably about 5'8", John Linehan, he was a defensive juggernaut. You know, he currently holds the NCAA record in steals at 5'8".
Wow.
Currently holds the NCAA record in steals. Unbelievable defender. So, you know, we talk about our offensive games being able to provide some opportunities in the future, but defense matters just as much. And obviously he has you know, Derek is up against a tough matchup right now. You know, the other guy who made it to the Final Four segment of this tournament is Mr. Matt Turner.
Yeah, and once again, like with Matt, a great leader on the court, he can be a lethal offensive player, a facilitator of the ball. He always plays defense and good all-around game and tremendous upside potential. And I think the fact that he's dealing with some humility as a freshman, which is always a good thing to help keep a kid in check and make him work harder, he's having to do a little bit of that. And I think in the big picture, that'll help him mature as a player to be a good leader.
Yeah, definitely. You know, and there's obviously going to be, you know, not that action, but that reaction. Like you said, the humility can definitely benefit him in the long run when you talk about a player understanding his talent level. And, you know, it sounds like he's a player that's probably comparable or better than whatever the case may be than a Keandre. If they were in that same situation, flip-flopping, what would that role be? And obviously if Keandre was in a situation where he's best player on a certain team and he had to defer to a bunch of senior guys, you know, what was his actions be like versus a player like, you know, Matt, who's in that situation. Now you talk about he's in there now, but in the future, 2-3 years, is it going to hinder him? Hopefully he's coachable enough to understand what he's going through with that process right now. I mean, this is it was tough, fellas. You know, when we talk about that Final Four bracket, We had three great guards. We had an unbelievable wingman. And again, we talking about what you guys have seen from these guys already, and then kind of trying to look ahead, speed it ahead up to their future, class of 2016, and projecting their futures. And we wish them all the best. But the two guys that'll probably be moving on to the championship round, you know, and this will be the last 30 seconds you guys got to promote these guys, would be, I would say, and it's tough because Florizard, Edens, I love it when you talk about a guy 6'6", 14 years old that can play possibly 3 positions, you know, and as Phil talked about, being able to get him away from the basket a little bit and being able to develop on that level. And then Derek Ellis, I mean, he just sounds like that prototypical guy that he's going to do whatever it takes to win a game for you, do whatever it takes to put himself in that position to be out on the court to help his team win. But the two guys that advance will probably be Keandre versus Matt. So now in our last 30 seconds, fellas, of trying to promote these guys, creme de la creme, who's going to be the top of that echelon in the class of 2016? And so, Ashan, we're going to start with you with Keandre Fair. Give us your reasons of why he's going to be, in 4 years, the top of that list in the state of Connecticut.
Sure. Keandre comes from a very tough AAU program where at one point in time, he might have been the 3rd best guard on the team because of his height advantage. You know, he definitely grew some. He worked himself up to become the player that he was now. He definitely takes his craft very serious. He puts up shots. He goes to the gym. Even after practice is done, he goes in to work out additional with some trainers to make sure that he is the best. Right now, he definitely is an all-around player. Can play the 1, can play the 2, and he can also drift over to the 3 as well too as a slasher. I like Keandre because he is a playmaker. He likes to take the tough shots that most of the kids wouldn't take. However, he still is a freshman, but he definitely has the IQ and the presence of sense to become a star as a freshman. And right now, he's averaging some really good numbers to put his team ahead, where they actually will make the playoffs this year because of his contribution. And at one point, he was coming off the bench, you know, so he wasn't always a starter. He just moved into the starter role the last 3 games actually into the season. So he's shown some improvements there. So the reason I like Keandre, because he has the it factor, and he's making the people around him better as well too.
Wow, that's an extremely strong argument for this guy. Now I don't know what you're going to say about Mr. Matt, Phil. I mean, you already said a ton. Let's see what else you got for this last 30 seconds.
Well, I think that Matt being a little physically bigger at about 6'2", already above the rim player with all the different weapons that he possesses, plus having to deal with humility but leadership role at that freshman level, I think it's going to help his growth. It's going to make him work harder, especially in the off season, and so in the big picture, I think that he's going to be at the top of his class, hopefully at the end of his 4 years.
Listen, it's difficult on my part, listening to the talent level, even breaking it down from that final 8, then obviously moving on to the final 4, and then with these last 2 guys. And as you know, Phil, you mentioned if we can even just get these guys. Listen, I'm just for seeing good basketball. I would love to see these 2 guys even playing on the same team in the backcourt together. But even just imagine if Weaver played Trumbull, you know, just to watch these guys go up against each other, you know, a matchup of that nature. I mean, that's just the type of stuff, and I'm sure those 2 guys will be looking forward to it when you talk about people that's competitive in nature. Oh boy, listen guys, I apologize, you know, that it has to go down this way, but I can't make a choice. I can't make a decision right here with these guys. Like I said, it was hard enough for me to break it down to the.
We'll have to come back.
We might have to come back.
Yeah, we might have to conclude this. We've got to have to conclude this at the end of the season, or even probably in 4 years to see where these guys are.
We can do that.
Because we talk about some, as you guys brought to the table some really quality guys, and we talk about on and off the court, and then just breaking it down to this final 2 is just, you know, it's just too difficult, and probably wouldn't even right now be fair to kind of to make that decision yet.
And there's probably a kid out there that we haven't even mentioned.
Oh,
and
yeah,
I know there is.
Absolutely.
That it's not where you are now, it's where you are.
That's right. That's right.
It's not how you start, it's how you finish.
Yeah, that's right. And it's funny, you mentioned that of Sean, and then talking to Phil the other day, he said the same thing. It's not where you start, it's what you finish. And obviously, you know, we kind of been around that basketball and just watching people develop. Some people fall off the cliff,
Yes.
and then some of those unknown guys rise to the top and end up at the top at the at the end of those 4 years. So, so definitely, this is not just all of the players in Connecticut that we should be keeping an eye out on. But these are just 8, really good freshmen.
They just stood out. They just stood out amongst the rest, and we apologize if I missed anybody. It wasn't personal. It's just I'm just having the opportunity to see some of these kids play, and hopefully I can get out to see more freshmen play.
Right.
But at this point right here, those are the ones that stood out the most to me being freshmen.
Right. And as you talk about guys we haven't seen, before we conclude on the Moore report today, I just want to ask you guys if you can just throw one name at me, quick description. And we talk about guys to look out for. Obviously, these guys are freshmen. Can you guys give me an 8th grader? An 8th grader who you think is a guy to look out for, Mr. Sean Davis?
Yeah.
Oh, if you got more than one, that's fine.
J.C. Martin
is
the guy to look out for as an 8th grader. Hands down, I've heard that this guy, or I've seen that this guy, actually, I called this about 4 years ago when I first seen him play. When he was in 4th and 5th grade, I saw that his headsy. J.C. Martin was a very good pound for pound, pure point guard that I've seen for his age group at 8th grade.
Right. Okay.
He's amongst the likes of Bobby Moore. One of the
oh boy!
Wow.
Listen, I haven't seen him.
Wow.
I've heard some really good things about him. I want to give a shout out to Raheem Solomon.
Oh, Raheem, yeah, absolutely.
It was an 8th grader that's about 6'2", who's really has a lot of upside potential.
What school is he at, Phil?
He is
at
DW.
No, he goes to Freddie Wish.
Freddie Wish.
Oh, okay.
Freddie Wish,
Okay.
Yep, he's one of the local guys.
Oh, okay.
If he wasn't going to say JC, if he would have said JC, I would have said Raheem.
Oh, okay. And what school is JC at?
He goes to Rawson.
Rawson, okay.
Sarah J. Rawson.
Okay.
And Raheem goes to Freddie Wish.
Okay.
He's definitely athletic.
Yeah.
Runs the floor. He's a really good player.
Yeah, we're trying to make. We want to see him play the 1 or the 2, which I think is important because some kids shoot up quick and then they kind of cap off. He's got more of a guard build, but he wouldn't have that skill set that JC has. From what I hear. And there is one special kid on the other side of the state.
Who's that?
Tremont. Tremont is special.
Yeah.
He's only about 5'8", and as a 7th grader last year, he played on the 16 and under team with the New England Players.
Wow.
And
he's tremendous.
He started at the point guard, and he can score from anywhere on the court. And it's kind of freakish because when you look at him, you don't see a basketball player.
He got ice in his veins.
Yeah.
Definitely. I've seen him play at the Springfield at the Springfield basketball tournament, and being in 7th grade playing against the 16-year-olds. It doesn't look like much. Honestly, he doesn't look like a ball player at all.
No, he doesn't.
He is ice water in his veins. Very composed, makes the right play. Always makes a good basketball.
High IQ kid.
Very high IQ, and he's not afraid to take the tough shot at all.
The unfortunate thing is, we got Massachusetts and New York that are hot on the Connecticut market, so sometimes you'll see some of those highlight players go out of state to play.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Fellas, I appreciate you guys joining us today. We had an unbelievable topic, being able to bring some of these names to people's attention that that don't follow basketball as much, from the local guys to the guys, like we said, around the different parts of the state. We're going to conclude the Moore Report today, and hopefully you can join us next time.